Discovery is the latest in a series of shows and films in the Star Trek franchise. Originally appearing over 52 years ago in 1966, Star Trek has appeared in many different forms and styles over the half-century since its inception. Each incarnation of series and film strive to tell interesting and compelling stories about the human condition, as seen from hundreds of years into the future, through the lens of space opera and science fiction. Some stories are more focused on action. Some are courtroom dramas, while others are heavy-handed allegory about social conditions.
We educated them.
Yes, just education enough to serve the master race.
Always changing no matter the form it takes, Star Trek is a vehicle of the imagination. It affords the audience an opportunity to reflect on ourselves and society from a different perspective, and asks us to put aside our differences.
No. No, I won't kill you.
In celebration of infinite diversity in infinite combinations. Each incarnation of Star Trek has been received by audiences differently, with some becoming critical and commercial successes. And others being remembered mostly for how embarrassingly bad their execution is.
My name is Khan.
No matter how heady the concept.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
Personally, I have been a Star Trek fan as far back as I can remember.
Captain,
Sitting in front of the TV as a child and watching Mr. Scott slide the levers along the control panel, only to have the crew dematerialize, accompanied by that eerie and iconic sound, was magical. Despite loving the characters, stories, adventures, and wild technology that Star Trek continued to offer up over the years, there were incarnations that I didn't like. Yes, there were some bad episodes in the original series. Okay, some really, really bad episodes. And movies. Some of the movies are fairly terrible. When The Next Generation started, it was weird. Really, really weird. And bad. Some of it was exceptionally bad. But I stuck with it, and eventually the show came together and turned into excellent Star Trek. In fact, it became so good that when the next series, Deep Space Nine, began airing, I was deeply uninterested. Offended even at how dissimilar the show was from the previous series I so desperately loved. Deep Space Nine was dark, dirty, and filled with shady, despicable characters. Atop the tonal shift, it wasn't even about the trekking exploration that had been the series' hallmark up to this point. I didn't watch it long. Likewise, I passed most of Voyager and all of Enterprise. During the 2009 reboot of Star Trek by J.J. Abrams, I literally walked out of the theater in disgust. It was no longer my Trek. It didn't meet my predefined and limiting conception of what Star Trek should be. Boy, was I wrong. Eventually, I came around and watched every Star Trek on which I could get my hands, and ended up loving a lot of it. Deep Space Nine I now recognize as masterfully ahead of its time. But for years, I harbored a strong and bitter sentiment towards the franchise, and was happy to tell anyone who would listen about why Deep Space Nine was terrible, why Voyager was a waste, why Enterprise was worthless, and how the J.J. Abrams reboot films were objectively bad. Truth be told, Star Trek has had its share of crap. There are poorly conceived scripts, lame implementations of good ideas, downright bad ideas, heavy-handed and preachy messages, and more conflicts in continuity than you can shake a tribble at. But no matter how bad Star Trek has gotten, it has always tried to get us, the audience, to consider what makes us human. It has always been progressive and inclusive and welcoming to everyone. Now I have reached a point where I realize that there's no such thing as my Trek. I'm not required to like an episode or a film. And there are many I vehemently don't like. I am not entitled to having anything my way. That said, I absolutely adore Star Trek Discovery.
I know that the show has a very different look and feel from other Trek series, which focused on the greatest characters humanity and alien kind have to offer. Discovery, instead, follows the misaligned and the cowards as they struggle to do what is right while under the control of a brutal, controlling, narcissistic megalomaniac. Look, I am done nitpicking the visual style of a show and how it doesn't align with someone's idea of what the future would look like from their vantage point in 1965. I don't care much if the canon timeline is not adhered to because some star dates don't match. My personal identity is not defined by how much of the technical manual I can recite, nor do I care what the combination to Captain Kirk's safe is.
Like when you left your quarters for the last time and you opened up your safe, what was the combination?
I'd just like to say, get a life, will you, people? I mean, for crying out loud, it's just a TV show.
In an age where greed and risk aversion cause corporations to churn out the same content again and again, sticking as closely to the formula as possible, I am supremely impressed that Discovery is so different from other Trek series. It would have been easy to simply make more of The Next Generation or Voyager, much like competing shows use the formula to great success. Discovery is boldly stepping outside of the comfort zone, pushing boundaries and causing us, the audience, to consider our place in humanity and society. Yeah, it ruffles feathers, but so did every other entry in the Star Trek series before. Star Trek is progressive, inclusive, and forward-thinking. It always has been, and I'm excited to be in such a time of plenty for the franchise. Thank you for watching.
Risk is our business. That's what the Starship is all about. That's why we're aboard her.
Okay, this video is something different for me. Of late, I have become deeply saddened at the overwhelming public hate and toxic nature of fandoms. Star Wars, video games, Doctor Who, and oddly enough, Star Trek are all seemingly plagued by vitriol and hate-mongering. I don't know what happened to sanity or public discourse. The unfiltered hate spewing from people is heartbreaking, especially since this anger is over imaginary stories designed for entertainment and enlightenment. Instead of adding to the poisonous hate-filled noise, I decided to make a video celebrating what I love. This took a lot longer than I expected to write, record, and edit. If you appreciated it, please hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, let me know if you would like to see more videos in this format by leaving a comment below. And if you really want to put a smile on my face, mash that subscribe button and ring the bell.